Welcome back, fight fans. We're here for episode 17 of the Great Canadian Fight Show. Santos versus Ankalaev just took place at UFC Fight Night last Saturday night. And as usual, you boys are here to talk about it. It's one half your host, Alex DeSalles, reporting live from beautiful Calgary, Alberta, joined as always by my accomplice, the brilliant Kyle Allen, who got me again last weekend. People wonder why you still show up for work when you just get your ass kicked by the brilliant one every weekend, but yet I'm here. How we doing tonight, buddy?
We're doing good. We're doing good. Welcome back. Remember last couple of times we've had some guest hosts, so welcome back to the podcast. And yeah, man, everything's good on this side. Canucks are playing tonight. They're up, I think 4-2 right now. So we're repping the Canucks, and yeah, we're doing good, man. We're doing good as usual.
Great fight card last weekend. Again, doesn't have that real superstar that we look for in a major pay-per-view UFC. But all in all, exciting finishes. If you haven't had a chance to look at it, highly recommend watching it again. Kyle, let me get your thoughts on this fight night last weekend because, hey, I'm going to say it again. For me, this was one of the more exciting fight nights that we've had so far this year.
Yeah, it was a really good card. All the fights I thought really played out. They really played out good. I wouldn't say there was really a bad fight on the card. Maybe the main event was probably the most boring fight. Even then, it was a very back and forth fight that was competitive and not very one-sided. There's some solid knockouts, some submissions. It basically had everything. So yeah, definitely one of the better cards this year so far.
Absolutely. We're going to get right into the main event here. Again, light heavyweight championship. Could have been maybe a number one contenders fight. Not sure if Ankalaev quite did enough. But Magomed Ankalaev wins on Saturday night via unanimous decision, I believe, over Thiago Santos. I mean, this was a competitive fight. I still had him winning. Were you surprised at all by the result, Kyle?
No, I think he still won probably 3 out of the 5 rounds. So competitive enough, but not quite competitive where it would have been a very close call. Definitely in my eyes, a unanimous decision as they judged it. So yeah, nothing to complain about, I don't think, in this fight.
Were you disappointed by Thiago Santos's apparent lack of cardio there in the later rounds?
Yeah, a little bit. That's kind of been his Achilles heel, I think, in these last couple of fights, especially going back to the John Jones fight. He kind of gassed out a little bit in that one. I think a little bit was his knee too, but he just doesn't have the best gas tank out there. I know he used to fight at middleweight. If you've seen his middleweight fights, he's like a lot smaller. Seems like his cardio is better, so I don't know if that's a better weight class for him or hard to say. But yeah, definitely his cardio is hurting him a little bit in these fights.
Yeah, I mean, there was a time, I think it was the third round or the fourth round, where he just kind of walked away from Ankalaev and gave a huge gasp. And it's rare that you see a pro athlete kind of at least show that much tiredness. Usually you want to have a bit of a poker face, but let's take nothing away from Magomed Ankalaev. What is it that impressed you the most about his performance on Saturday night?
I think it's striking. Like we've seen a lot of his takedowns, his wrestling and stuff like that. We've seen a little bit of his striking, but his striking was impressive. He stayed toe to toe with arguably one of the biggest knockout artists in the light heavyweight division right now. So his striking definitely stood out the most to me, that he's able to stand in there with someone of Santos's caliber.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, what do you think is next for Ankalaev? Again, it wasn't the knockout, the walk-off performance, I should say, that would warrant you a title shot or kind of force the boss's hands. But do you see him as potentially going up against a top contender like, say, Anthony Smith, maybe?
You took the words right out of my mouth. That's the fight I probably want to see. I don't think this fight, I know he wants a title shot, but I don't think this fight warranted a title shot. And Glover's fighting pretty soon in like a month or two. So yeah, he's gonna be out for a little bit after that. So it's the perfect matchup to put him in number one contender series or a number one contender match this summer, something like that. And then yeah, Anthony Smith is honestly the perfect opponent for him, I think.
Yeah, a couple of strikers, and we love to see it. I mean, hey, Anthony Smith's going to hit back, and seems to have a better gas tank than Thiago Santos. But again, congratulations to Magomed Ankalaev, a tremendous performance on Saturday night, and we hope to see him back in the ring very, very soon. Another standout from Saturday night was the co-main eventer Song Yadong, who had the UFC performance of the night with a brilliant first round KO of Marlon Moraes. Kyle, this is your boy. Man, I mean, he looked damn good on Saturday night. I mean, sky's the limit for Song Yadong. What impressed you the most about him?
I've watched his last couple of fights, so I felt like his skills are getting better, his striking's getting better, and he has, for someone in that weight division, he has knockout power, which isn't always super common, but yeah, probably just his knockout power that he possesses in his hands. It's not too usual, like especially with Asian fighters, you don't see too many of them with this kind of knockout power, and he's got it, so it's super impressive.
In an awesome bantamweight division too. I mean, gosh, I mean, there's a lot of great names there in the top five that we'd love to see him against. But again, do you see him as being a serious threat in that division?
For sure. I'm just gonna look at the rankings here real quick. Yeah, he went up a few spots, so he's at number 9. So yeah, he's right in there. He's right with the mix. I know Marlon Bear, I think, is tied up, but there's definitely some interesting matchups for him. Could even give him a potential Sean O'Malley matchup. That'd be a very, very interesting fight.
That would be a very interesting fight. I mean, that's probably the only guy taking a look at the rankings that he would take a step back for. Otherwise, you got to think he's eyeing either Merab Dvalishvili or potentially Corey Sandhagen. I don't know if Corey Sandhagen has a partner yet for the summer card, but that's another one right there that could be a great matchup for him.
For sure. I know Dominic Cruz is in there too, so lots of different matchups that we could see him. But yeah, he's definitely one to watch. I would for sure keep an eye out for this kid, and it seems like he's only getting better.
Oh, and he's an exciting fighter too. The only reason I didn't mention Anthony Cruz is because there's some rumblings going around, Kyle Allen, that it's going to be him versus Jose Aldo next. I mean, gosh, does that fight not get you excited as a fight fan, doesn't it?
For sure. Yeah, that could be a dream come true, you would say.
Christmas come early, as they say. But yeah, Marlon Moraes, Song Yadong, not a very competitive fight. Song Yadong looking fantastic. Again, wins himself the $50,000 bonus. We'll see if we give him the great Canadian performance of the night, which is much more valuable than the UFC performance of the night. But that's still an outstanding performance there by Song Yadong. We're gonna take now go to the first fight on this fight card here, which was the returning Alex Pereira going up against his first, some would argue, his first test in the UFC against Bruno Silva. He was a slight favorite going in at -170 and won via unanimous decision. But it wasn't as easy as you would look at it if you're just looking at the scorecard. I mean, what aspects of Alex Pereira's game, Kyle, do you think he needs to work on going forward if he's going to take on a more promising contender in this division?
Yeah, I think most people going to the fight thought he was just going to run through Bruno Silva and just take him out easily. But you can tell he has some holes in his game. He's obviously mainly just a kickboxer, so his takedown defense did look pretty good. Like, he definitely stuffed some takedowns. He did get taken down a few times, but yeah, if he can work on his takedown defense, like perfect example is Izzy. Izzy has super good takedown defense, minus the Blachowicz fight, but yeah, he has super good takedown defense. That's why he's able to stand and strike most of the fight and not have to worry too much about the takedowns. But yeah, if he can keep on working on that, this is just like what's it called? Like a train crash ready to come towards Adesanya in a couple fights here, potentially.
No, I agree. Could happen. But did anything on Saturday night about Alex Pereira's performance kind of worry you a little bit about him? Like, did he show maybe some chinks in his armor? What do you think?
Yeah, his power looks there. Like, some of the hooks he was landing on Bruno Silva were pretty nasty, even through his guard. But compared to Adesanya, I think Adesanya is a little bit more of a complete fighter. And I I think he'll have some trouble. If like you were to fight him like next fight, I don't favor him in that fight. But yeah, if he goes through a few more guys, gets a little bit more comfortable in the octagon, I think he's right there, and that's going to be a very interesting story if he can get there.
Couple more wins for Alex Pereira, absolutely. But you're right. I mean, the wrestling was a little, for me, it was a little bit worrisome. I mean, and it wasn't, he definitely won the fight. I'm not saying it was a robbery. I'm not going to blow the alarm on this one or anything like that. But no, I mean, he has to work on that. He can't just walk for it and walk through the guy and just be a straight offense kickboxer. I just don't think that's going to work in this pretty loaded middleweight division. So, but still, congratulations to Alex Pereira. Shout out to Bruno Silva again. I mean, a lot of people saw him as a can, but I thought he looked awesome on Saturday night. Any thoughts on Bruno Silva, Kyle?
No, I wouldn't think you would take too much away from him in this fight. He still looked good. Like he put up a solid fight. Yeah. I think he just started off a little bit too slow in the beginning, but near the end of the fight, he was putting it on him. I think he rocked him at one point. So I don't think it takes too much away from him. His last outing, he had a solid performance. So I think you're definitely going to throw him another potentially guy towards the top 15, and he could still definitely make his way up in this middleweight division.
Well, let's get into it. Let's get into some potential opponents for Alex Pereira. I mean, he called out Jared Cannonier, which I thought was absolutely blasphemous. But who do you see there in that top 15 that could be a good potential dancing partner for Mr. Pereira?
Yeah, so he's not even ranked yet, so it's kind of hard to call out the second ranked guy when you're not even ranked. So I don't think the Jared Cannonier fight is going to happen. Most likely it's going to be Izzy versus Jared Cannonier.
Yep.
I think they're trying to target that for like the summer. But you can give him potentially someone in like the 15, like a Shabazian or like a Brad Tavares or someone like that. Maybe
Tavares, I love it.
Brad Tavares would be an interesting one because Brad Tavares has some wrestling, so that might pose a challenge for him. So yeah, I think that's a good matchup.
Just builds up possibly the best countdown episode that the UFC will ever make. Can you imagine like they're showing Izzy's and Pereira's careers like as they make their way up to the top, like both of them knocking out Pereira, or both of them knocking out Tavares, both of them having a good performance as the opening fight on the pay-per-view.
Yeah,
let's do it. But yeah, again, Alex Pereira, very impressive. We look forward to seeing them in there very, very shortly. Doesn't look like he took that much damage. So I'm going to throw this one out at you, Kyle. We put Alex Pereira versus Brad Tavares as the opening fight on the pay-per-view in the summer that Izzy and Cannonier are headlining. What do you say?
2 big thumbs up and down.
2 big, great Canadian thumbs up. That's a great Canadian pick right there. I'm calling it, folks. That's going to be a good one this summer. July is what they're looking at for Izzy and Cannonier. So from the positive of the sports to the negatives of the sports, we go back to our co-main event. We spoke a lot about Song Yadong and his impressive knockout performance, but unfortunately it was at the hands of Marlon Moraes, who was once a top contender in the bantamweight division, but now, Kyle, coming off 4 straight losses to Corey Sanhagen, to Rob Font, to Dvalishvili and Yadong, all via TKO. Is this the end for the Magic Man, Marlon Moraes?
Yeah, it's tough. He was so close. I remember he fought Cejudo back in the day, and he was very close to winning that fight. And Cejudo was able to turn it around. He took him out. He had some very close calls in his career, but everything's pointing to a downward spiral in his career. It's very reminiscent right now of Cody Garbrandt, which brings up that fight is, I don't know what Cody Garbrandt's possibly thinking, but if he's thinking about maybe going back up to 135, that is probably the fight to make to hopefully spark one of these guys' careers back in the right direction. And I would like to see it. It's a good matchup, and I don't see why the UFC wouldn't do it. Loser retires. Do an old WWE loser I quit match.
The loser gets fired. Dana White comes out and goes, "You're fired." I love it, man.
Damn.
A ladder match for a UFC contract. I like it. Yeah. Garbrandt versus Marlon Moraes. Loser retires. Winner probably also retires, but we won't we won't go that route.
Lose or
But I
winner,
like that
winner,
matchup.
winner gets one more fight. How about that?
Winner gets one more fight and lives to die another day. I like it. Yeah, Marlon Moraes, tough go. I mean, again, his last win was against Jose Aldo in December 14th of 2019. But I don't know if you recall, Jose Aldo ended up getting a title shot after that because even the boss thought he won that one. So
Yeah, but
arguably he's got 6 straight losses in the UFC. They're all against top contenders, but 6 L's is 6 L's.
there's one good thing about like the UFC has so many, or not the UFC, but like there's so many other organizations out there that even if Moraes gets cut or whatever, like they have options. What's his face is or what's his name? Corey Anderson's like the perfect example. Like he didn't have towards the end of his career wasn't so stellar, and then he signed with Bellator, and now he's one of the top dogs in Bellator. So there's always options for these guys, which is nice, and it's something you don't see in other sports. Like if you look at football or like NHL or something like that, like if they don't make it in the big league, they're kind of screwed the rest of their career, right? So these guys still have options, which is nice, and hopefully, at the worst case, see them fighting in a different organization.
Exactly. And once they're all wrapped up with that, they can go into wrestling too. Paige Van Zandt is all elite. There we go, folks.
Very true.
That's another avenue right there.
His options.
Again, Marlon Moraes, we hope to see him in the octagon very, very soon. We move on now to another top headline, which was, again, we touched on it last episode, but it's Dustin Poirier's response to Colby Covington. I don't want to lead you down a road and tease you folks. He said no to that match, saying that he didn't want Colby to make $1 off him. Do you agree with this response? Do you think they're playing a game here, Kyle? What's your gut feeling on this fight potentially coming to fruition?
It seems like Poirier is kind of like a family man and stuff like that. Maybe he just doesn't want to entertain it to kind of give Colby what he wants. But on the other side, it is a very exciting fight. And I don't know if someone's calling you out that much, like, is it the right move to try to turn on the fight, even though it would be a massive fight? Is it kind of like the scaredy cat, the kind of thing to do and not take the fight? Maybe Poirier doesn't think he can. Maybe Poirier doesn't think he can win that fight, but yeah, I wouldn't favor Poirier in that fight. But he's still got a really good chance. His boxing is amazing, his striking's good, but I would think Colby would be the favorite in that fight, and maybe that's partially the reason why he doesn't want to take the fight. But yeah.
Again, do you think, is there a part of you that cringes at this trash talk? Or do you think it's fair game, it's the fight game?
Slightly, like maybe he's taking it a little bit over the top, but what can you do? You can't, it's working for him. Like people like it. There's, he has a ton of fans, so some people are into it. I'm on the fence with it, but it's working for him. So I'm not going to say stop doing it. It's just got to do you, I guess.
Colby, do you, bro? Because I'm not going to say stop doing it too, because it's definitely entertaining to watch, but it does make me cringe a little bit. I mean, I'm a firm believer that religion, family, off limits. I mean, if you're creative with your trash talk, early day Connor, Chael Sonnen, even Muhammad Ali, major throwbacks. I mean, this was some like witty, creative trash talk that kind of made you laugh a little bit. So let's go back to that. Let's promote that. Again, kudos to Poirier for standing tall. Again, I mean, that could be a big fight. So he didn't take the bait. We'll see how it goes. But let's move on. You talked about competition, Kyle. If a UFC fighter maybe goes on a bad run and they get cut for the UFC, you know, if we were maybe 10 years ago, where did they go? Now there's many alternatives, one of which is Khabib Nurmagomedov's new Eagle FC, who just had their Eagle FC 46 last weekend. This was a hell of a main event. I mean, we had Kevin Lee, Diego Sanchez, a couple of UFC journeymen going at it, and which was a decent fight, but a great showing for Kevin Lee. I mean, Kyle, what do you think of this, man? This is good for the sport, isn't it?
Yeah, I think any competition for anything is good for the sport. One prime example, not the same sport, but if you look at WWE, what AEW's has done, how many like people they've signed.
Yeah.
Like 5 years ago, there was never that option really for wrestlers to go into a different organization, and now they have like prime spots to go into AEW and make equivalent money to the WWE. So I think it just pumps up more fighters. You're going to see better fighters in other organizations. Like maybe they won't have quite the caliber, obviously, of the UFC, but they're going to have fighters that stand out. Like maybe their top 2 or 3 guys in each division are going to be almost equally as good as the UFC, as you see in Bellator. Bellator has some really, really good fighters that are, if you match them up with the UFC, like prime example, AJ McKee versus Volkanovski. I don't know who wins that fight. So I think it's great for this
4-inch size difference there between those two.
Yeah, so I think I always think it's a great idea to have more competition. More competition, the merrier. I hope they keep doing it. I hope they don't pull a WCW and buy up all the competition and invade Monday Night Nitro, or is it Tuesday Night Nitro? I can't remember.
Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, or what was that? What was the Nitro? WCW, like Wednesday Night Nitro or something like that.
I think something like that. Yeah.
Like that, yeah.
You know, while we're on the topic of WWE, though, I'd be remiss if I don't say a rest in peace to Razor Ramon. Scott Hall passed away last night, I believe I saw. Rest in peace, Razor Ramon. Hey, yo, icon. This guy was awesome. And thoughts and prayers out to the family of Scott Hall, family and friends of Scott Hall. So a shout out to him as well. And second shout out as well. This is the last WWE for this show, I promise. But thoughts and prayers go to the WWE boxer Big E, who had a bad fall at last week's episode of Friday Night SmackDown. There was a suplex outside of the ring that went wrong where Big E landed on his neck, suffered a broken neck. So thoughts and prayers are to him. Looks like he's doing all right in the hospital. So Big E, a big, great Canadian shout out to you, man, and a speedy recovery. But let's move on back to Kevin Lee, though. Kyle, Kevin Lee, again, this was always a guy that struggled in the UFC, kind of bounces back between welterweight and lightweight. All of a sudden, you throw into Eagle FC here at a 165 catch weight, and he looks fantastic. I mean, do you see him as getting as a guy, again, like you're saying, that could potentially have a career rejuvenation at a different organization and at a more maybe favorable weight class for him?
Yeah, I definitely think so. Like 165, I still don't know why the UFC won't do it. Like, to me, it makes perfect sense to have a weight division every 10 weight classes. You're only adding a couple more weight classes. It won't be like boxing where you have like 50 different weight classes, but I don't know why they don't do it. And I'm glad at least one organization is doing it. It gives more fighters more opportunity. If fighters are having a hard time getting to 155 and too small for 175 or 170, and it gives them that perfect middle ground. So I like it. As for Kevin Lee, I'm a little torn on it because he's supposed to be like this elite fighter, and he even had a pretty tough time against Diego Sanchez, and so he still won the fight, but I don't know, against more competition, he still hasn't fully proven it. So I'm curious to see how they build this division and see the kind of competition they give him. If they give him some competition that's really up there, then I'm very curious to see how it goes. But again, he has been plagued with injury, and it looks like he might have another knee injury after this. So we'll see how his career goes. But I'm a Kevin Lee fan, so I want to see him succeed, and I'm curious to see how his career goes.
Me too. Lots of great Canadian love to the Motown phenom. Congratulations to him. I mean, again, it was still a win. A win's a win. Back in the winning column against Diego Sanchez on Saturday night. We move back to the UFC Fight Night. We're all over the place in this show, folks, keeping you entertained, keeping you on your toes. We're going back to Khalil Roundtree, who was able to finish Carl Robertson via second round KO, and earned himself, again, a UFC performance of the night. But the highlight for me was the post-fight. He really opened up in one of the more emotional post-fight interviews that we've seen in a while. I mean, his journey was quite incredible, quite motivational. Kyle Allen, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you thought. I mean, it's rare that you see a fighter open up like this on national television. What do you think?
Yeah, like I like both sides of it. Like you gotta love the trash talk sometimes, but yeah, when fighters really they really believe in something or they really want to promote something they believe in and it makes them that emotional where they can't hold their feelings in, like I'm for it. I like it. I like his story. Is a very good story of losing a ton of weight and getting into the UFC. Like I think he got into the UFC mainly because he just wanted to join like a class to lose weight, and it led him here. So it's just crazy how you can make one little small choice like that and it turns into a career like this. So very interesting story, very motivational story, and it's probably very motivational for any up and coming fighters or any fighters that or I guess overweight people that have a tough time. So yeah, I like it.
Same here. Two thumbs up for Khalil Roundtree. Again, I just want to emphasize, folks, he was over 300 pounds and now fights in the UFC light heavyweight division, which means he cuts down to 205 and he's chiseled and he's in great shape. So congratulations again to Khalil Roundtree, a real role model for the kids. And we love to see that. Any potential opponents that you'd like to see next for Khalil?
Yeah, so it doesn't look like he is ranked. Interesting. I mean, there's some interesting matchups, definitely like in the top like 10 to 15, like a Ryan Spann or a Jimmy Crute would be interesting.
Like to see that too. Yeah.
Dustin Jacoby is also a good matchup.
Yes.
Any of those guys in the top 15 to 13. Johnny Walker, maybe he's coming off, I guess, 2 losses or something like that. So I don't know if that's the best move for him, but yeah, like a Jimmy Crute, I think is a very interesting fight.
That is a very interesting fight. I'd love to see that one next. Again, we are big fans of Khalil Roundtree, and we hope to see him back very, very soon. We move on to our last headline before we move to the Great Canadian Picks. Greg Hardy coming off his 3rd straight loss at heavyweight, 3rd straight KO loss, I should add. The UFC has decided that they would not be renewing Hardy's contract, and he was released on March 12th. Kyle, what is your immediate reaction to Greg Hardy and his MMA career with the UFC being inevitably over?
Yeah, I like the UFC gave him a shot. Like I know he has a kind of a tainted past, and still big on the UFC to at least give him that second chance. And he did prove it. He won a few fights, but inevitably he just I don't think has quite the skill set to make it in a as a top contender in the heavyweight division. But that being said, there's still options for him out there. Other organizations, or as we've been talking about this podcast, him in wrestling would be an interesting thing if he joined WWE or AEW.
Oh yeah,
he's a big dude. He's a name. Could be an interesting career avenue for him, and I think he could do well in it.
Yeah, if he came out and faced Roman Reigns, that would be pretty freaking sweet.
Yeah, he's over 300 pounds, so like he'd be a beast in the ring.
Absolutely. Hey, love to see that. But again, yeah, Hardy, I'm with you. I'm happy the UFC gave him a chance. I mean, looking at his record, I mean, he definitely was able to string together a few wins here and there. Notable wins against Maurice Green, Jorgen De Castro. Again, he just couldn't swing with those top 10, top 8 fighters. So we wish Greg Hardy nothing but the best. Again, I mean, we're all about second chances here at the Great Canadian Fight Show, and hope to see him very soon, either at a competitive organization or in the WWE. So that's that. But let's touch on to next weekend here really quick. We got a big card here next weekend. UFC is going to British, with big headliners. In the main event, we've got Tony Aspinall taking on Alexander Volkov. But we're gonna do another segment with our quick picks for that one. We're gonna touch on our great Canadian stars that we would recommend that you keep an eye on this weekend. So Kyle, I'm gonna let you go first. You're gonna tell us about your first great Canadian star that you're gonna be keeping an eye on.
Yeah, so I'm just quickly taking a look at the card here. Did they cancel the Paul Craig fight? I'm just looking at like the on Google here. It doesn't show his fight anymore, which is kind of alarming. This is could be a breaking news on the Great Canadian Fight Show, but
Holy smokes, folks.
I'm gonna go to the UFC official website. This doesn't happen much on the Great Canadian Fight Show, but we're giving it to you as we see it here.
I think it was dropped. I think something happened.
Yeah,
I've got Arnold Allen and Dan Hooker now in the co-main with Paddy Pimblett versus Kazula Vargas. In the third fight, Gunnar Nelson versus Takashi Sato, Molly McCann, Luana Carolina, and Jay Herbert versus Ilya Topuria.
You heard it here, folks. Looks like we got a little bit of some breaking news going on.
And another bit of breaking, it appears as though even Paddy Pimblett's fight was moved around. He was supposed to be fighting Ilya Topuria, wasn't he?
No, I think his opponent was the same.
Oh, no, it was Vargas. Yeah, it was Vargas.
But yeah, we'll roll with it. I was going to talk on Paul Craig, but we'll switch up. I'll talk on Gunnar Nelson. I think he's going to be one interesting one to watch in this fight. He's early in his career looked super impressive, and he has some really good wrestling, some really good striking. At one point, he was like the bona fide like potential challenger in the welterweight division. Came across some injuries and some losses, but I think maybe he's taking some time off, could be rejuvenated, and I think he's going to be one to watch. I think he's a heavy favorite in this fight. So I'm very curious to see if Gunnar Nelson can kind of turn his career around a little bit and make a run at this welterweight division, because I think he has some of the tools to do it.
Awesome,
Yes.
Kyle. Yeah, excited to see Gunnar Nelson back in there. I'm going to talk about one of the hometown favorites, Paddy Pimblett. I mean, folks, get ready for the pop this kid is going to get on Saturday night from the British crowds. I mean, they love this guy. The UFC website currently has him as a minus 490 favorite, and I would agree with it. I mean, this guy has star written all over him. He's going to go out and try and finish his opponent in the first round. He said it before. Very Conor McGregor-esque in the early comings of his career. Very, very excited to see Paddy the Baddy, the Scouser, back in the ring on Saturday night. Very excited to see him. And the last one we're both going to touch on a little bit is the returning Dan Hooker, who is not only returning to the octagon, but returning at 145 pounds. Kyle, do you think he's going to be too depleted for this weight class?
Hard to say. I don't really love it when fighters like say they're like he was in the 155 division. He did some good work in the 155 division, came on some hard losses, and then their kind of immediate response is like, oh, I should just go back down a division, be bigger than them. I don't know if that's the right thing to do, but he did look good at featherweight when he fought in featherweight. So if he can make the cut, then why not?
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, I guess Saturday night will tell. The cuts haven't been good to fighters recently. We think of Garbrandt, his most recent history. So we hope his result will be different. But again, Dan Hooker, Paddy Pimblett, and Gunnar Nelson, the three to watch out for this weekend, folks, as it's going to be a great card in England. UFC returns to England this Saturday night. We're going to get into the great Canadian picks from this past weekend's fights. Before we wrap up this episode, Kyle, I'm going to let you again go first because you again got the better of me this weekend. Who is your great Canadian pick for performer of the night?
Performer of the night? It's a tough one. I'm going to go with my boy, Song Yadong. I think he just looks very impressive. And he looks impressive in a division that is already super stacked. So I'm very curious to see what his next fights are going to be like. And he's probably, would you say he's probably the top Chinese fighter in the UFC right now? Maybe aside from Weili Zhang.
Yeah, well, if we're talking Chinese men, I think Chinese overall, Weili definitely still has the popular spot on him just because of all of the great fights he's had so far. But in the men's, absolutely. I mean, he is the man right now, and he's exciting. And you're right. I mean, you don't see a lot of Chinese fighters with that finishing touch, and he's got finishing, closing power. So.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to argue, I wanted to go against you on this one and maybe go Khalil Roundtree, but I'm gonna also go with Song Yadong. Again, what a performance! I mean, could have potentially retired. Marlon Moraes, he looks fantastic. So he is your great Canadian performer of the night. Next, we've got the great Canadian match of the night. What was your great Canadian fight of the night, Kyle?
my fight of the night. I'm gonna go with. Oh, it's a tough one. It's a tough one thing between two. I really like the Sadiq Youssef fight. I feel like that fight was very back and forth. I think it was a close. Was that a unanimous decision for Sadiq?
It was a unanimous decision, yes, but it was a very
Yeah,
close unanimous
I think it
decision.
could have been close. I think it could have potentially been a split decision.
Yeah.
Alex Harris looked good. Sadiq Youssef looked good. He's definitely. There's so many good up and coming fighters coming up, like in the featherweight division, another stacked division, and then you have someone like this that's 12-2 on the rise, and yeah, he could be an interesting contender to watch. And I love just watching out for these guys that are coming up, seeing their rise and seeing what they do, and kind of catching their career a little early on.
Awesome. Yeah, I was tossed up between that one and the Pereira fight, and I'm going to go with the Pereira fight. I mean, one of the judges had it 30-27, which I thought was nuts. It was definitely a 29-28 win for Alex Pereira for me. That was a great fight. Bruno Silva proved himself very game against what everybody was talking up to be a world killer. And I thought for me, that was the great Canadian fight of the night. That puts a bow again, ladies and gentlemen, on episode 17 of the Great Canadian Fight Show. Keep an eye out for our quick picks segments, which will be coming out just before the weekend, where we are going to give our picks for this weekend's fights. If you like, again, what we're doing, it's your first time coming in, wandering into this episode, checking out our channel, like and subscribe, and please go into the comments and give us any kind of feedback that you might have. Follow us also on Instagram, Great Canadian Fight Show 2022. Kyle Allen, any finishing thoughts, sir?
No, not too much. I was going to catch you on one here, just a random thing to kind of round out the episode here. But I want to get your opinion on this one.
Oh,
Who do you think will be the or just because we were talking about China and different countries that are coming up, what do you think will be the great Canadian country that is the next big up and coming country that we're going to see fighters come out of? Sorry, I just had this on top of my mind. I had to get it off me on this episode.
oh man, good question. I mean, if we're taking, we'll take Dagestan out of it.
Yeah, they're already here, so I would take them out of it.
I think there's going to be a Brazilian resurrection. I think there's a lot of new Brazilian fighters that are coming up. Maybe not new, because Alex Pereira, again, I wouldn't consider. He's diehard kickboxing fans will slap me for saying that he's a new fighter. But I do think we're in the midst of seeing a Brazilian resurrection. There was a time in the UFC where these guys were the top of the top. They kind of faded away as the years have gone by. But we've got currently two champions that are Brazilian, three champions that are Brazilian. We've got Figueiredo, we've got Teixeira, and we've got Oliveira.
Yeah,
and I think there's more to come. So I think that's the answer, surprising answer with that one.
I like it. On my
What
end,
about you? What do you think?
I think on my end, I'm going to go with what I was talking about before. I think China's going to make a run at some championships in the near future. Maybe not right away, but I think in the next 5 to 10 years, I think you're going to see a lot more Chinese fighters and potential champions.
Absolutely. I love it. I mean, hey, the more international the sports come, the better it is. It really is the best in the world fighting in the octagon. So Fantastic question and the show, buddy. Really appreciate that.
Sorry,
Thank you very much,
had to throw it in
folks.
there.
As usual, Kyle, it's been a pleasure talking fights with you. To all of you that joined us, thank you very much. And we will catch you next week when we break down UFC Britain. Have a good night, folks.
Take it easy.